Okay, everybody, it's me, Gregory Mannarino. It is Tuesday, October 22nd, 2019. You know, we just got some sobering news here in America, and this is what I've been talking about now for I don't know how long, but we're seeing a couple of very disturbing trends. And I want to talk about that. Let me start off with the basics first. Stock futures are about flat right now. Crude oil is catching a bid a little bit. That might put a boost behind the stock market. You got, precious metals, gold and silver. I have real-time, tick-by-tick price action little widgets on my website, traderstrades.net. So if you want to see what the price of gold and silver is tick by tick, go to my website, traderstrades.net. Right on the left side of the page. You should pay attention to that. Anyway, let's talk a little bit here about what I started with. Right now, American citizens are carrying a higher debt load than they have ever carried in history. 44% of American citizens, 44% are borrowing just to make ends meet. I don't care what rhetoric you might be hearing about a booming economy. It is nothing but lies, propaganda, and nonsense. And we really do honestly need a new and a real leader in our country, someone who will finally level with the American people, who I think are starting to wake up here. That's the truth. How could 44% of the population of the United States, I mean people who consider themselves middle class, be borrowing just to make ends meet and buy into the fake narrative that this is as good as it gets? Is this really as good as it gets? Why is this happening? Again, it goes back to inflation, like I explained to you recently. They're trying to convince you that there's no inflation. Meanwhile, again, back in the 60s, it took one income. A regular guy on a regular job, not even college educated or trade school educated, could support an entire family. My father was one of those people. My father was a regular guy, nothing fancy, moved around a lot with regard to jobs, but for the most part, he had no college education. He was able to support our entire family in a single-family detached home, me, my two sisters, and my mom, on one income. Try to do that now. Can't happen. This all changed as the cover-up with regard to inflation started to be instituted. You're not allowed to know what's actually going on here. And let me ask you this. Why does the Federal Reserve have a 2% inflation target? You ever think about that? Why do they have to hit a 2% inflation target? Is inflation good? Is it good for you to see prices continuing to rise and then they're telling you, oh, it's not happening, it's something you're imagining? Look, like I said, in the 60s, one income. 50s, one income. 70s, things started to change. You needed two incomes. In the 80s, absolutely. And people started to borrow in epic sums. Why? Because the dollar keeps getting devalued. You're told there's no inflation. Now it takes two incomes, and apparently 44% of the American population cannot make ends meet without borrowing. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible, but the stock market is near all-time record highs. When the president says the economy is booming, it is booming for the CEOs of these companies that are part of the military-industrial complex. There's no doubt about it. But Americans are suffering right now, big time. And again, you think it was better under the last guy, who I couldn't stand, who I used to explain to you was destroying America? This guy, President Donald Trump, has surpassed that individual, and he had no choice. He had no choice, like I told you would happen. He has to borrow in greater and greater amounts just to make ends meet. President Trump is outspending President Obama by exponents in a shorter period of time. And that's part of the reason why you're not hearing about what the Federal Reserve is doing out of the mouth of the president. Can't allow you to understand the hundreds of billions, soon to be trillions, that the Federal Reserve is printing out of thin air, adding to a digital screen. Dollar devaluation is going to be the outcome of all this as they continue to add dollars to a digital screen. Recapitalizing the banks. Oh yeah, let's make sure that the core of the military-industrial complex has enough capital that they can borrow for nothing as a series of rate cuts are coming, and they can lend to all of you who are borrowing in record amounts at exorbitant fees. Sounds great. Where do I sign? Yeah, President Trump. It sounds like a booming economy. Yeah, for the military-industrial complex, for the Dow 30, they're doing perfect. But not for the regular guy and the regular girl. And I don't care what side of the aisle you sit on. This should be obvious to you. Don't feel like you have to defend the president here. Look at the facts. And then if you feel like you have to defend him, then I guess go ahead. But things are what they are. You can't change them by trying to twist it. If you don't think what I'm saying is true, look it up for yourself. And then you're going to go, ooh, Greg is right. Yeah, Greg is right. Anyway, look, the bottom line is the game remains risk on. Stocks will go higher as the middle class continues to be eliminated. It's an extermination. The middle class is deliberately being exterminated. And again, if you're part of the middle class, you got to break out. You got to figure out a way because you're going to end up on the lower rung. I would be willing to bet most of you watching this video have a negative net worth, and that is very sad to me. Very, very sad. You've got to figure a way out of it. Now, don't wait, because look, our economy is in absolute free fall. The proof? Where's the proof? Yeah, sure. Stocks are going higher, but and that's the illusion. If the stock market is going higher, our economy is great in the minds of the dumbed down. But those who understand that we are in contraction, major sectors of our economy are in contraction. We are not making anything in our country anymore. We're not exporting anything. Fiscal deficits, trade deficits exploding, about to get much, much worse. But the narrative will be maintained. Booming economy. Again, it is booming for the Dow 30, the S&P 500, while the middle class, 44% of the people in this country right now cannot make ends meet without borrowing. They are in debt higher than they have ever been in history. And that is also about to get much, much worse. Maybe you should tweet the president at Real Donald Trump and ask him what he thinks about it. You know what you will hear? Absolute zero. Because you're not supposed to know the truth. You're supposed to believe what you're being told. And you're supposed to follow along. That's it. You must comply. If not, well, you know, you'll be one of those that are pushing fake news. Unreal. All right. Love you a lot. Please share the video. See you later.